Well, good morning. My name's Craig Blanchett, and this is our summer boot camp for June, July, and we are in week number 1. And this is the this is the AM work group session. So during our boot camps, if those of you that have been involved in before, we have a training session on Saturdays, and then we have actual group practice sessions on Tuesday morning and Tuesday evening, both 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. And week number 1, we talked about creating our master list. It's a list that we work from. Basically, it's the lifeblood of our business. In our business, we work with lots of people. We work with referrals. We work with acquaintances. We work with close friends. We work with family members. We work with just people all over the place. And all of those people have names, and we track them with a master list. And then we learned the technique we call SALT, or salting your list. And SALT stands for starting a conversation, and then asking questions and listening to the answers. And there's a bit of a pause between the L and the T, because the T stands for tell your story. And we don't always tell our story the first opportunity to salt someone, but oftentimes we do. And then during our conversations, what will happen a lot of times is the conversation will naturally go to one of the areas of the trilogy. And then people will start talking about their health, and they'll start talking about their financial health or their job or where they work, or they'll talk about their physical health or things that they're working on, trying to lose weight, trying to get in shape. Maybe they're in shape and they're talking about the exercises and the fun things that they're doing. Or the other is emotional health or mental health, and they might talk about desiring to have more friends or getting together with people or having stress in their life or things like that. So those are the 3 areas of the trilogy. And as you're talking and salting your list, you just look for things to come up if and when they do. And if they don't, you continue to make connections with people. And so at this point, what I wanted to do is open it up to questions. If you do have a question, for all of you, we taught last week how to raise your hand in Zoom. And that's down under the participants section if you're on a computer, or it's in the more. If you click on your screen and you're on an iPhone or a mobile device, you can click the screen, click more, and then you can raise your hand. I'm curious if you guys have questions about what we went over, or maybe somebody that you have actually, you've started writing your list, or if you've used the SALT acronym on anyone yet. So do you want to have a few little feedback? I've muted everybody, by the way, so you'll have to unmute yourself. Okay, sounds like it's pretty basic stuff. So today what we're going to do is we're going to actually work on creating our list. And so there's a couple of ways to do it. The easiest and simplest way is, I remember Kim Fisk called it lines on paper. And basically you just have a paper with a bunch of lines, and you just start writing down people that you know, and then you'll start to sort that list. And the simplest way, you want to be working with a list of around 100 to 300. Somewhere that's usually every person knows about 300 people. And so as you start your list, you might start with your first 10 or 25 or something like that, but you want to get upward in the range of about 100, and then you're going to categorize those people, or what we call sort them, and you'll sort them based upon different events that you're going to. Maybe you're planning a event that you're going to have a barbecue out at your lake house. Let's just say you have a lake house, right? So you might go to that list of people that you know, and you're going to find out who you're going to want to invite to come out to your barbecue. Or maybe you're going to have a healthy happy hour, and you want to start a series of healthy happy hours that maybe once a week for a month. So then you want to sort your list and see who you want. One of the things that I've often found is that when I'm inviting or promoting an event, uh, it seems like a good idea to invite everybody I know. But the practical side of it, imagine if I invited everybody I knew to my house for a barbecue. What if they all showed up? That'd be a problem, right? Because I don't have that much space. But what if I picked 10 or 15 people that I really wanted there, and I personally invited them? Started a conversation, I asked some questions, I listened to the answer, and then I told them what I was wanting to invite them to. Well, that's going to be that's going to be a subset list of people that I invited to that event. It's going to be easier to manage and easier to follow up with. And also, I'll make sure I have enough food for a group that's 10 or 15 people. So as we're going to be making our list here, what we can do is we'll just take probably 10 or 15, maybe 10 minutes, and we'll see how many names we can get on our list. And I personally, for those of you that are a little bit more technologically savvy, I use Google spreadsheet. So it's just a spreadsheet, but instead of living only on my computer, because I have a Google Drive account, because I have a Gmail address, these are free. I keep my spreadsheet on Google Drive, and that way I can access it from any of my mobile devices or on my computer, because it actually lives on Google, so I can access it from anywhere. And if I had it locally with my on Excel, then it only existed on my computer, and if I didn't have my computer, I couldn't get to it. So, but one of the really nice things I like about using a spreadsheet is because spreadsheets are really powerful for sorting. And so what I've done is I created a document on Google Drive. And if you don't know how to do that, that's fine. You can Google it, believe it or not. And I named it people. I just named it, or it could be, your master list. You can name it whatever you want. And then I have a column that has name, and then it has their phone number and email address. And then I've got these two columns that are ways that I sort lists. And we will go through that in a minute once we get some names down on paper. We'll talk about how to sort things later. So we're going to do our first little work session here, and we're going to try and crank out, see how many you can get. I'm curious to see if we'll do a poll to see if you've got 10 names, people that got 20 or more, 30 or more, 40 or more. And so you can look at your address book in your phone, because those are probably people you know. And because this is a master list, we're not sure what we're going to use it for specifically yet. You want to make sure you get everybody's name on there. And then you can also go into Facebook, and you can look at your friends in Facebook, and you can, people that you know or people that are close friends. We're going to sort the names later, but you just want to have people that you know on this list. All right? Any questions? Nope. Okay. So then we will start out. We'll just do a 10-minute, and we'll see how many names we can get down on our list, and then we'll come back here in a second. So get after it. All right, guys. I I have curious as to how many of you had got at least 10. Maybe you can see by a show of hands, your real hands, not your virtual hands. You all got, and if you can share your screen too, that'd be great because we can't see you raising your hand. Hi, Becky. So you got at least 10 on your list. Great. Anybody get 20? Yep, quite a few of them. Any 30? Okay, 30 is a big number. Yeah, so is 10 and 20 though. Think about that. Anybody get 40? Wow, 50? Wow, Rita's killing it. 50. Awesome. Well, great stuff. And the neat thing about it is that, think about that. How many names per minute you actually got. And the reality is, if in 10-minute time you got 50 names or you got 10 names, I mean, 10 names, that might be one per minute, right? And so in a 10-minute period of time, if you got 10 names, that's great. But if you think about it, you might be pre-sorting your list. If you only got 10 in 10 minutes, you may be thinking, who are the fat people that I can write on my list, right? And that's normal, believe it or not, because after all, when a lot of us think that this is a weight loss program, and so when we're writing down names on this particular list, we're writing down names of people that need to lose weight, because after all, that's what we do. And over time, you'll realize that that Optavia is not merely a weight loss company; it's a wellness company, and wellness is pretty open. And make sure you don't pre-sort your list, and you only put the people that need weight loss, because wellness includes weight loss. By the way, it's just another way of sorting your list. I'm curious, as you guys were writing that down, if anything out of the ordinary jumped out, like there was somebody that you hadn't thought about in a while, and you wrote their name down, or if as you were going through that list, if you were noticing that you were pre-sorting. The only thing I wanted you to write down was people that you knew. That was I mean, that's hard to write down people you don't know, I guess. I mean, maybe somebody like Donald Trump or the president, or maybe Sammy Hagar, or I don't know. I'm sure there's people you don't know, but you know their name, but you don't know them. So the only criteria here was people that you knew. And then secondary, think about this. Maybe you don't know your mail carrier, but you know your mail carrier. They've handed you a package before. You don't know their name, but you know the mail carrier. Well, guess what? Next time they drop off a package, you can say, you've been delivering my mail for years. What is your name? Now you know their name, right? Your doctor. There's lots of ways to get lists, but I'm curious, who has a question or a comment about, did you pre-sort your list, or are you gonna sort it later? Rita, did you have something?
I was
Laura, you go first. Yeah, go ahead.
I was pre-sorting my list. After you said that, I realized I was doing that. I got a pretty big list, but I did skip over some people.
Yeah.
And I also came up with a couple people that I haven't talked to in a while, but I knew that they had previously been on a weight loss program, so my bad.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's and like that's the terminology that sort of came out of today is, don't pre-sort. We're going to sort that list so many times. You're going to resort that. Just because you wrote their name down, you're not going to be asked to call every one of those people today. And you definitely, I'm not going to encourage you to say, hey, do you need to lose some weight, as the first thing that comes out of your mouth. That just won't go well. Why would you do that? Right? So I'm not talking to you specifically, but I'm saying for all of us, let's take our fat goggles off, and let's put our connecting goggles on. Put our relationship and our serving goggles on. Yeah, Becky, go ahead. And then Rita, you're after Becky.
Yeah, that's what I did sort of pre-sort. I did people that I kind of have relationship with.
Mm-hmm.
You were asking me just people I know. Well, last week I was at a church camp. And so I thought I want to go through the people that we get a list of everybody who's on our staff. And I said, so I was going through that. And I said, a lot of them I didn't talk to. They weren't in but the ones that are, that I've got more of a relationship with now after this past week, definitely I want to like friend them on Facebook and that kind of thing. It may or may not come up about the program, but it was just, so in a way, I pre-sorted the ones I kind of know, and not just,
Mm-hmm.
Know of them. And then, on the leadership call last night, Brian was talking about the summertime. We all go to so many events and stuff like that we don't usually go to. And mine was like the church camp this coming weekend. I'm going to a family thing. Just all kinds of things at those events is when we could add people like Brian did with his reunion. So it's just that it's an opportunity to connect, and from there things may or may not grow. But it's just be about connecting, and don't be that person, the Amway person that or whatever. It may not be Amway. Just say.
Yeah.
We don't want to be like that. We want to be,
Right.
relationship.
Well, we're not trying to get people.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to sell you anything.
Right.
I'm trying to serve you. There's a difference between trying to sell and trying to serve. And I think the main difference that I see is that if I'm trying to serve you, I have to get to know you first, so that we all have needs, but wait till the need comes up. And then if you can, and if you want to, offer to serve. Because when you try to sell somebody, I'm trying to convince you into doing something that I don't know you need or want. And that feels weird, because we're not just trying to sell a thing to somebody. We're trying to build a relationship with somebody that could last a lifetime in many cases. But this is an intimate relationship where you're walking with somebody to help them become more whole as a human being and more healthy as a human being. And you don't sell that to people. So anyhow, Rita, you're next.
Couple of things. One, I noticed when I got out of my head, then just names started coming out, and I never looked at them. I just started writing, and that was an interesting thing. My hand was getting a little crampy because I was trying to get a lot in that 10 minutes, but that was another head thing. But the other thing is, when you put yourself under pressure with a deadline or whatever, then you go get them, and it starts creeping in because we're human. And if we can really stay out of that, for myself anyway, we get a lot. I've had a lot of life hit here in the last couple of weeks, and so I've got myself a little behind. But I had to stay out of my head to know that it's all in time and it will all work out as long as I'm willing to stay in the question. You can get so many answers from the questions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and it all comes together. So don't panic. Just keep really sharing your heart, and people get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sharing your heart, sharing your life experience, and then finding out about theirs. I think that if I there's this thing called being interested versus interesting, and the idea, if I'm trying to be interesting, then I want to tell them and sell them, and I want to promote things, and I want to talk about how great these magic little morsels are, and how this is the fountain of youth, and how it could change your life, and all stuff. But if I'm trying to be interested, I can find out if people actually want the fountain of youth, or if they want a community of like-minded, healthier people, or if I have to be interested in them, and that's part of the salt piece. So yeah, this is the bedrock and the lifeblood, actually, of what we do. Everything we do is about people and not products. Products will come and go. People are so, there's such a different value to people. And people are there's you build relationships. I think of when you're salting your master people on your master list, you'll think about it and categorize them. Some of them, if you think about the relationship continuum, I'm just sort of making this up. You have people that are a 0 all the way up to people that are a 10. And I would rank people that are a 0 as strangers. If they're an acquaintance or I know them somehow, like my mail carrier is not a stranger. I don't know her at all, but I know she hands me the mail. I've had a conversation with her. And so they might be a 1. And then if you go all the way up to like a 5, those might be strong acquaintances. If you get up to a 7 or an 8, those are friends, fairly close friends. Then I would put my spouse as a 10. I know her better than I know anybody else on the planet. So somewhere from a 0 to a 10, and what I'm trying to do with my master list is I'm trying to warm those relationships to a point at which I can serve them in some way with something that I have. And it may not be a Take Shape for Life thing. What if somebody needed a ride to the airport? Or what if someone wanted someone to go fishing? Or, it may not have anything to do with Take Shape for Life, but what if imagine if you had a fishing trip where you had 3 places that you needed to fill and you had, it was all paid. Well, you would go to your master list and you would probably look at people that are a 7, 8, or a 9 for that list, right? So you're going to sort that list again. But if you don't have the list, now you're just going off the top of your head. You're thinking about, who would I want to bring? Well, if it's only 2 or 3 people and it's a pretty exciting thing, you're probably going to go to your best friends, which you can think about. But what if they're all busy? Uh-oh. What if you have tickets to a Blazer game and you're trying to invite some people and you don't have a list? Sometimes those go without you actually miss out on the opportunity to use those because you can't think of anybody other than your top 1 or 2, 3 people that you know. So these are the kinds of benefits of a master list. And what I'm trying to I'm trying to create the value in having a list of people, because people are important, and not have it be just focused on, I'm trying to get you on program. You're going to resort this list over and over again, depending on what you have going on. And all of it is generally going to be relational. And you're going to look to build that relationship to a point that you can offer to serve them in some capacity, right? Maybe you have somebody that is has a sickness or just had a baby, right? And so you can look to serve them by bringing them a meal. Well, if you're going to bring them a meal, because you're a person that's focused on health, it's probably going to be a healthy or ish meal, right? Because that's who you are. So let's see, who else had their, Rick had his hand up. Go ahead, Rick.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Well, I was just looking at, as it is what you're talking about, Craig, and it's not about the magic meals at all. It's about serving people. And of course, when we start with our lists, and we all seem to think that we don't know anybody when we first come into the program as coaches. I don't know anybody. And the fact of the matter would be is you have to know somebody. You have to. You're not here on the planet and not know anyone. You would have to be under a rock to not know. So it's the very, very, very first thing that comes to my mind is, geez, I do know people. I have an address book on my phone. I do have an address book like we were talking about here on Saturday. And it's putting the master list together with everyone, because we're going to be sorting and salting, and sorting and salting.
Yep.
And it will continue on. And some people will go off of the list. You will physically take them off the list, because at some point in time, if you've reached out and you've even tried to start a conversation and they've not been responsive, maybe they've been on your Facebook, maybe you've been Facebook friends for years, but you've never really even had a conversation there. Why are they even existing on your Facebook list? I think I don't know. I've got like 2,500 people at Facebook. Do you think I know them all? No.
But so essentially Facebook is a list.
Yes.
And if you decided, I did this one strategy one time. Actually, I learned about it from somebody else, and it said, it said the post. It was a direct message to them. It says, "Hey, I'm not sure we actually know each other in person, but I've made a personal goal this year is to meet at least 100 people that I'm friends with, but I don't actually know you at all. I'm curious. Do you have a few minutes to get to know each other? You know, sometime this week." And people, and I talked about, you know, I'm resisting internet anonymity, and I'm actually trying to break through that social barrier. Well, they were like, sure, you know, and then it was a matter of, okay, now write that name down and make sure that I follow up on that. If that was something that was just in my head, which for 3 of those people, I never wrote it down, I never followed up. Right?
The other part, Craig, is the fact that, you know, while we're using Facebook as an example here, and I think some of us may be in a couple of groups outside of Optavia and our you know, Lean and Green and Unite to Wellness and whatever. Outside of those groups, we have some other groups, and for me, I'm in a couple of handgun groups. You know, maybe there's some political affiliation. You know, I'm not going to state, but we're in groups. It might be anything, but in those groups, how many people do we know in there? We're there, but we're not there. We're kind of like, ooh, hi, here I am. Oop, I read what I wanted to read and then I left. But you know, those groups have a list of people as well. It could be 2, 3, could be 300.
Yeah, and if you go into those groups trying to sell people, you know what that feels like. You see it. You can spot it a mile wide. So
and that's it. We're not in there to go, hey, guess what? I get the newest, latest, and greatest, and then back out. No, you have to create the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
They might not want to be there for any reason other than they just kind of like got thrown in there. Have you ever been thrown in a group and wondered what that was? Where am I here today? You know. So yeah, let's just start to get our list together.
Mm-hmm.
People that we actually know. Then we can start creating some conversations, you know, outside of the arena. But you know, we're never going to run out of people. There's always going to be people on our list.
That's one of the funny things, Rick, is people say, well, I just need to know how to get clients. And I'm like, well, where can I find people to help? You know, and I said, they're all around you.
Everywhere.
But if you're trying to get somebody just to lose weight, well, that you just filtered your list way down to almost, probably zero, because how do you know? Who's come up to you and said, hey, I need to lose weight? You know, so we're going to do some salting exercise, and it's going to be actually an exercise about curiosity. So I'm going to put you guys into into groups of 2, and in your goal of this is to look in someone's. So you don't know much about the person, so you start the conversation. You ask a question. The question is going to be looking at someone's background right here in Zoom. And you're going to ask a question about something you see in their background. And you're going to try to you're going to practice starting a conversation and being aware of something, being curious, right? Maybe it's something that they're wearing. Maybe it's their glasses. Maybe, you know, Honeybeth doesn't have much going on, but she's got a blue shirt and there's something on it. And I don't know what that is, but I would find out, right? You know, so just look at what's inside someone's background. You're going to ask them a question about the thing, and then see if you can come up with a follow-up question about their answer, and actually be interested, be curious about what that is. I did this with Rick the other day, and I'm like, okay, I see 2 pieces of paper behind you, and then I see something on top of maybe a filing cabinet. And so he went through, and I said, why did you display those there? And he said, well, I wanted them, and he had an answer for that. And then I asked him another question. Okay. Is that I'm gonna mute you. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open up the rooms. You'll go into the room and we'll spend about 8 minutes. And so each of you ask 1 or 2 questions and just try to find a way to be curious about something that you see or something about the person. And we'll just see how it goes. Get practice being observant and aware and that. All right. So if you click on your screen here, oh, wait a minute here. Let's recreate. We want to do 2 to 3 people per room. There we go. Recreate. All right, guys, have fun. So just click on the notification on the screen and we'll take your view. Do this exercise with us. Maybe Leroy, if you share your video, maybe Leroy can ask a few questions, or you can ask some questions to either one of us. You get 2 people to choose from. And if you flip your phone onto its side, and that way, does that look better for you as well?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Welcome to Zoom.
Yes.
So I just saw something I'm interested in. I'm curious about you. And I just saw it for a second. You've got an Apple Watch on.
I do.
Yes, you do.
Yes, thank you.
And is it version 1 or version 2?
Version 1.
Version 1. And tell me about why you did you choose, it looks like it's the middle, it's not the sport model, it's the one with the sapphire crystal, or is it rose gold?
It's rose gold.
Okay. And why did you choose the rose gold one, and that's the first question.
Well, I just love the way it looks. I love the rose gold.
Mm-hmm.
But I chose the Apple Watch because I had been using Fitbit, mm-hmm. and I was much happier. I'm much happier with the Apple Watch
mm-hmm.
in tracking, and yes.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm still learning how to get the maximum use out of it, because I'm sure there's a lot more I could be using to apply and track. But
and which side did you get, the 38 or the 42 millimeter? There's 2 sizes.
I think the 42, the little bigger one.
The bigger one, yep, I do too. Yep. So
are you enjoying using yours, Craig?
Yeah, I've had mine since it very first came out, and the reason why I use a wheelchair, and so if I'm going to be checking messages, I have to hold my phone with my hand. Well, then my hands are quite busy, and so this allows me to check things really easily. And the Apple Watch is the only one that's calibrated to steps for someone in a wheelchair. It actually tracks wheelchair pushes, and it's the only one that does that. And so all the step ones were always so inaccurate for me, but this one has wheelchair pushes. So, Yep.
Very interesting. I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Amazing how they can do that, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, let's bring some people back here, and then we will get a little feedback here. We got about 4 minutes left. And so are you going to attend the PM session tonight as well?
Yes.
Okay,
yeah, because this one I didn't get on till late, obviously.
Right. Yeah. Excellent. All right, gang. I hope that was fascinating and interesting, and we're practicing our awareness muscle, our curiosity muscles and our awareness muscles. I'm curious if you guys would like to give a little feedback so we can learn from each other's experience as to something that stood out. So if you can raise your Zoom hand, and then I can call on you. Honeybeth, you're up first. Go ahead and unmute yourself and then share with us.
Well, when I got into my Zoom room, I cracked up because it's with one of my coaches. And we know each other extremely well. So this actually proved to be a very difficult exercise because we were so familiar with each other. But that was really good. I thought, oh gosh, we should have had people we didn't know. But it actually forced us to listen even harder. Mm-hmm. And to do more conversation. So as Jan Burke, so as I'm talking to her, I'm like, what about these pictures on the refrigerator? And, you know, she was telling me what they were. And I mean, I had to listen to ask a series of 5 or 6 questions, you know, going beyond just that because I already was so familiar with her. So it was fun. It was very interesting. I thought it would, you know, it was going to, I didn't know what I was going to think until we started doing it. I'm like, okay, it was just forcibly. Listening isn't always that hard, but it's so funny to realize that you can do it in any situation. Mm-hmm. You don't know everything you think you know.
Yeah, that's fast. It's great. It actually seemed like that might have been a more advanced thing because we basically, I think our connecting muscles, our skills as human beings to connect with other human beings aren't very developed. We don't really connect and serve and our curiosity muscles. We're more interested in telling people about what's exciting about our life than we are learning about what's going on. So next up we have Rita.
All right. Well, you know, of course I had somebody I had stayed with at Go Global, so we laughed, but, and then she was real curious with me, and then I was really, because I knew a little bit about her, but I was curious about the Indian stuff, and she was sharing with me at the end about one of her sons that had to eat every 3 hours without fail because of the way the body worked and his digestion, and I said, well, and it all came around that, well, you know, I am a health coach because you know that, but I said, it's interesting that babies know this, and yet we have to reteach adults. And that's really the main component. It's not about losing weight. And I kind of watched her because, you know, she doesn't need to lose weight, but it was people will grab onto that going, wow, that's right, my children. And it was all about the children and they're all grown now. So it was really interesting because I did know a lot about her that from staying with her, but it was nice to know more. Mm-hmm. And actually, the opportunity for me to say something came up, and I thought it just was a perfect fit that I thought, I'm going to do that. I'm going to just put that out there because then that makes curiosity for them to come mm-hmm. back.
That's great. Thank you. Karen. Let me unmute you. There you go. Go ahead, Karen.
So it's interesting because I was the roommate to Rita, and I talked. And so we both looked at each other like, okay, we know each other too. We know each other from that roommate experience. But I picked up on her earring. And she has, I noticed her earrings that were hanging down, and then she has a little small earring in her ear. And when I roomed with her, I never asked about it, but I thought, how am I going to connect with something? Because I couldn't see what was on the wall, but I connected with it. I said, you know, I'm always curious about that. So, well, how did that hurt? And what was it like to do that? Why did you decide to put one in your upper ear? And because I've kind of thought about doing that myself. So she went into this whole story about her daughter and the experience she had with that earring and how she thought about something. You know, will the technician who do this get her glove caught in it? And I mean, there was a whole story with this earring that was just fascinating. And she said, you're only hearing one layer. And I said, well, we'll have to have a discussion about all the other layers about your earring story. So it was really fun. Just picking up on just the slightest little thing that I've been a roommate with her for 4 days. Never asked about that. Never asked about a little thing like that, but it really, now I'll never look at her again without knowing the story of her earring.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting too, because I bet you one thing that didn't happen, you weren't trying to get anybody on our program because we're already all coaches, right? And the exercise wasn't try to find something unhealthy. It was making a connection, being curious, and exercising, developing your curiosity muscles. And there's these five things. Isn't that funny? There's these five things that I talked about a little bit on Saturday. And number one was notice something about someone else. Notice something about them. And we all just did that. We noticed something about them or where they live or their environment or something. And then we asked something about the thing. Tell me about what's going on. So number one is notice something. Practice noticing something about people. Just always be curious. Be looking about, I wonder. And you guys were authentically curious about the things. You were like, it maybe weren't deeply curious, but it was like, I wonder what's going on with there. And there was no intention of trying to get somebody. It didn't feel weird. It didn't feel like a salesy thing. It didn't feel like the thing that you don't want to do in the first place, right? People come to you as coaches. I won't want to feel like I'm trying to get somebody or sell them. I don't want to sell anything. And we're like, good, don't learn that now. Learn just how to serve. Notice something, ask something about the thing. Make sure when you're asking about it that you don't make it about you. Oh yeah, I have earrings too, and my blah, 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 and you just start blabbing on about yourself. Don't make it about you. And then number three is ask questions that demonstrate that you heard them. And so it might be, were you nervous? Like in your, Karen, were you nervous about like how it was going to hurt? And by asking that question, she knows that you've considered it as well, and you were concerned about the pain. But you didn't say, I've always thought of that too, but I didn't do it because it was going to be too painful. Because that would be making it about you. So this number three is really a challenge. It's a skill you develop. Ask questions that demonstrate you heard them without making it about you. Going to take some time. This is an advanced skill. And then you can elevate that new moment of decision. So when now you have a new, deeper level that they understand that you understand them, it's more of an empathy, it's a deeper connection. And then you have to, it's not elevate, it's evaluate the new moment of decision. So based upon that new level of understanding, you want to evaluate whether you want to, the T in SALT is tell them about something that could be of benefit. So you have to always stop at number 4 and consider, is this the time that I go there? Or is this too soon? And you'll have to learn the feel of that. You know when it was too soon. You know when someone did it to you.
Right.
You do that. I know you do. You ask them, so tell me about those candles. And they start telling you all about how candles were made and about the different spices and senses and things like that. And 20 minutes later, you're like, I just wanted to know if it was fruit scented. That was it. Because I'm allergic to fruit scented things. And I mean, we've had that, right? And so then once you gain agreement that they say, hey, would you like to know more about that? I've actually been researching this whole thing about eating every 3 hours and why that makes sense in our bodies. Are you interested in learning more about that? And it's like, yes, right? Then you can choose to go into that. So it's notice something about them, ask something about the thing, ask questions that demonstrate that you heard them and that you sort of have some familiarity with it too. So relate to them. And then you stop and evaluate whether you choose to offer to serve at that point or whether you wait for another time. And then if you decide to do it, then you gain agreement. You ask, hey, can I share a little bit about that? Hey, I have some experience with that too. And I'd love to share that with you. Do we have enough time? Are you interested? So those are kind of the deeper levels of the SALT aspect. So your homework for the week is to SALT 5 people that are on your list. this week. And then second thing is to take a picture, snap a picture of your list and send it to your mentor. And pick 5 people on that list that you're going to salt and put a little star next to them. So, so you might then, so you have your list, you pick your 5, right? And then you send that list, your list to your mentor, and then tell them why you chose those 5. Because I want you to know why you picked those first 5 or those next 5 if you've been doing this a while. And then you go start a conversation. You ask questions. You be curious. You're not trying to get them into the Optavia bandwagon. You're just being curious and getting to know them and finding out what's going on in their world. Okay? This is what we do, and we need to become masters at connecting and relating and being curious, authentically curious. And it's a skill that what you focus on, you will see. And so my goal today is to be curious. What kinds of things can I be curious about? And you'll be surprised at how you'll start to see stuff you didn't see before. So, all right, guys. Well, for those of you that want to join us tonight at 7 p.m., we've got another power hour where we'll do some more of this, some more relating. And in my opinion, I would come to as much practice as you can. So come back again if your schedule allows you to do that for tonight at 7 p.m. Pacific. All right. Well, that's all I got for today. Thanks for joining us. Oh, Rita, did you have one more thing? Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say thank you. You're awesome.
Oh, fun. No, it's fun.
Definitely practice curiosity.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
All right. We'll see you guys next time.